Hello, happy campers. I'm Spike, and that is not Chris. That must mean this is the first edition of the Chore of Duty. In today's episode, I'm going to give you 3 little rules. At long last, I've been threatening long enough. 3 rules that'll help you detect all the BS out there. Well, at least it'll give you a start. You might want to start with me. Have noticed my beloved wife wants to. I love her. The Chore of Duty is now. Well, that wasn't so bad, was it? Now, today I'm going to go ahead and give you something I've been threatening to give you for months. And no, not just a pal. These are Spike's 3 rules for dealing with BS. And these are 3 rules that I've developed over the years. They've helped me figure out a lot of things, especially stuff that you see in the news, stuff people are telling you at work, at school, at play, whatever. Especially for controversial issues. These 3 rules will help carry you through a lot of the BS and start realizing where the kernel of truth is in there. Hopefully not a corn kernel of truth. Moving on, ignoring that imagery. Rule number 1, understand it's all been done. Yeah, that too. Listen, no matter what your pet cause is, we've gone through something like it at some point. We may not have gone through this exact issue, but we've gone through something very similar to it. For example, let's look at, let's go with climate change, okay? Might as well, if we're going to step our foot in it, we might as well just jump in and start stomping around like it's a mud puddle, right? Okay, so let's have a look at climate change. It's all been done. This panic people have about climate change today is nothing new. We've gone through crises before, especially climate-related ones. Right now, it's called climate change. Back in the 90s, and then it was called global warming. Back in the 70s, it was called global cooling. Back before that, the big environmental scare was overpopulation. Back before that, it was the devastation from war and the mutually assured destruction from nuclear warfare. Even though it never actually happened. But they still worried about it. I think they raised a lot of money from it too. Oh wait, that comes in rule number 3. Back to it. There have been climate issues before, and they've always been treated like a crisis. Everybody who goes out and starts telling you this is right or this is wrong are probably not paying a whole lot of attention to history. If they're true believers, if they're the Kool-Aid drinkers that people like to talk about, then odds are they're not really paying attention to what has gone before. Again, global warming used to be called global cooling. And before that, it was the Dust Bowl, blizzards, hurricanes, tornado outbreaks, all kinds of things. Microclimate, macroclimate, it all comes together and forms a climate. And the one thing you need to remember as far as climate change is concerned is that's what climates do. They change. And that leads us to rule number 2. There's always a big old but. And we're not talking about Kardashians here. We're talking about you can make the biggest, grandest, most extravagant demonstration of whatever your crisis is. However, if you're being honest, there's going to be a big old but. Again, back to the climate change we're talking about. we talk about how climate change is threatening the world. I mean, we've been given a number of drop-dead deadlines over the years. I believe we've gone through 1999, 2001, 2003, 2009, 2012, 2016. 2012 they actually made a movie about. 2016, 2020, and so on, so on, so on. Now they're finally starting to learn a little bit. Now they're starting to push like 15, 20 years into the future so that people won't be able to say, why are we still here? Now, that's because there's a big old but. We've got all this data that's been collected from all over the world, from all these different weather stations and stuff that tells us we are doomed. And if we sit here and do our little calculations, we can extrapolate and figure out we're going to be doomed by the year 2035. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, for example, says that we're going to be dead in 12 years anyway, so why bother with anything? Rule number 2. But, of course, climates change. It's what they do. However, there's also another thing that you're kind of ignoring. When was the last time you saw anybody get a 7-day weather forecast right? We're talking about microclimate there. We're talking about local area. We should be able to tell what's going to come within the next 7 days, right? We can't. 3 days on the outside. That's typically about how far we can forecast accurately. That's with the best equipment, the best minds, so on and so forth. So how are you going to tell what's going to happen 20, 30 years down the road? There's your but. Big old but, too. Mainly the person trying to sell you that load of hooey. But there's nowhere else you're going to get BS, right? Somebody's butt. Now that leads us to rule number 3, okay? And this is the one that I'm not couching in a joke terms, okay? This is not clever. This is something that you really need to ask yourself whenever you see any kind of news or summary or somebody giving an opinion. You need to ask yourself, who benefits? Now, it could just be that somebody is altruistically motivated out of the kindness of their heart to do something. It's been known to happen. Look at local TV stations. Why would they be putting news on at 6 o'clock? Who benefits? Well, the station does. They give you information, you watch the information, along with the commercials that they manage to sell to businesses with it, and they are able to make their payroll this week. The TV station benefits. Going back to climate change now. The people who are poo-pooing climate change, the so-called deniers, those people, who are they going to benefit? How do they benefit from this? If we stop paying attention to climate change completely, how do they benefit? Who benefits from it? Well, obviously, oil companies would benefit because oil companies are one of the biggest causes of pollutants there is. Not necessarily carbon dioxide. Trees kind of like carbon dioxide. So do most green plants. But carbon emissions, smog, all of those are generated by petroleum engines. That's big oil. Now, who benefits from perpetuating the climate change scare? Well, if you've ever looked into Al Gore and his carbon trading credits, yeah, take a closer look at that and you'll find all kinds of information about the little scheme he came up with. Just happened to have in mind when he came up with the movie An Inconvenient Truth. Who benefits? It's a vital question and gets you straight to the center of just about anything controversial or even non-controversial. If you just want to know motive, who benefits? Whoever benefits the most is most likely a guilty party. Now, take those 3 rules. It's all been done. Yeah, that too. There's always a big old but, and always ask yourself who benefits. There is a corollary to this. Keep in mind, when you're applying these 3 rules to whatever you're looking at, whatever you're thinking about, the corollary is this. The truth is usually in the middle. Again, on back to climate change. The climate change cheerleaders, for want of a better word, say we're all going to die in 12 years. Meanwhile, the people who despise climate change cheerleaders, they're the ones saying it's all completely fake and there's no substance to it at all. So, who's telling the truth? Take your two extremes and meet them in the middle. And the truth is going to be somewhere in there. No, it's not necessarily X-Files, but the truth is somewhere in between the extremes, because everybody exaggerates. If they're going to make a statement, especially if they're making an emotional appeal, they're going to have to exaggerate everything. So that's why you need to extract what makes sense out of both sides, bring together the facts, and figure out where the truth is. So what is the truth on climate change? Like, I know. I can tell you what I think. And of course, apply the 3 rules of BS to me as well. Don't be afraid. I'll be happy to help you figure them out if I have to. The truth about climate change is that it's real. Okay? And like I said, climates change. It's what they do. However, it's not as severe as the doomsdayers are saying. And it's not as mild as the so-called deniers are saying. The truth is somewhere in the middle. The climate is changing. Average temperature is going up, even though you can argue that a lot of the scientific instrumentation that's being used for measurements may not always be in the best places. But that doesn't negate the fact that there is an increase in temperature. Rule number 2, there's always a big old but. But there's one thing that causes more change to the climate than even human activity, than even cow farts. Look straight up at high noon and go blind. But you're looking at the cause for about 0.2 of a second anyway before you fall to the ground crying and clutching your eyes. It's the sun. Solar activity tends to cycle. Some decades it's a little more active than others. Some it's a little less active than others. Back in the 70s, we went through a period of global cooling. That was when sun activity was at its weakest. Then it started picking back up, and right now we're in the middle of an active period. That pretty much covers a lot of the increase in temperature. More solar activity, more energy going out, more reaching the earth, more warming the entire atmosphere. Temperatures go up. Now we are 250 million miles away from the sun, so there is some lag, and there's also a lot of buffering that happens in between. The point is, there's always something that people are leaving out in order to make their case. Take both sides, take them both with a grain of salt, and weigh them for yourselves and figure out what is the closest thing to the truth that you can think. Come up with your own opinions. Now, there's actually a second corollary to these 3 rules. It's a little less serious than the truth is in the middle, but it goes like this, okay? And I'm going to close it out with this little statement. This is pretty much my slogan, okay? Opinions are like buttholes, okay? Everybody has one, and they all stink because they're all full of crap. So until next time, this is your old Uncle Spike speaking. Make sure you keep saying your prayers, eating your vitamins. May God bless, God keep, and Godspeed. See you next time here on the Chore of Duty. Night all.